Broadcasting live from the Business RadioX studios in Phoenix, Arizona, it's time for Phoenix Business Radio, spotlighting the city's best businesses and the people who lead them.
Hello and welcome to Phoenix Business Radio, broadcasting live from the Max 6 Entrepreneurial Center right here in Tempe, Arizona, where we help build businesses and connect you with the right people. And I'm very excited about today's conversation. Came from, I believe, a LinkedIn connection. Does that sound right?
Yes, exactly.
Yes. And here we are. And we were kind of pressed for time going live, so I failed to ask how to pronounce your last name. So let me just introduce you to the tech founder and co-founder for ListenUp app, Igor. Did I pronounce it?
Yeah, we could have some fun with the last name if you want.
Okay, we can, but I pronounced your first name correct.
Yes, you did.
And Irina.
Yes, correct.
All right, so let me try. This is my Italian, German, Finnish heritage coming through. Ilyinsky. No.
That's pretty close.
Yeah?
I mean,
That's close. We got people saying
the
that.
YI kind of rolls off quickly, so it's Ilyinsky, but we normally pronounce it
Ilyinsky. It took me a while when we got married to figure out how to spell it.
What's your maiden name?
Dement. Yes.
So much easier.
Much easier.
Yeah.
And you two have, so you're married, you're business partners. You've done plenty of other startups and things on your own as well. Mm-hmm. So we've got some time to talk about all that. And you came to the States, I read this morning, the same year, the same way, but didn't meet until years later.
It's actually, today is 43 years, September 19th, 1979 is when we came to the States.
That's
my
crazy.
mom every single year texts me, hey, today is, what year? I just got a text about 20 minutes ago. Today is 43 years. So we were both Soviet refugees.
Yes.
Yes.
So that long ago, and you're a little bit younger than me, you came with your families.
We did. We were both 3 years old. So
yeah.
I'm dating myself here.
Well, not as much as I would if we talked about where I was that year. But families didn't know each other, different areas?
I grew up, so I was born in Odessa, Ukraine. So I was born in Ukraine. Odessa's a port city. Irina was born in Minsk, which is in Belarus,
Okay.
different country.
At that time, it was all...
It was all the Soviet Union.
Right. So then how many years, fast forward to 2001?
Yes,
right?
We met right after 9/11. I was on vacation on a cruise. He was with his friends. One of his friends was working with the Port Authority. They needed a break afterwards. This is December after 9/11. Yeah, one thing led to another. 20 years
And
later.
Here we are.
Yep.
Exactly.
Yeah, no, there are a lot of sad stories that come out of, 9/11 and the World Trade Center attacks. But this is kind of, I think, a happy story that came from that event.
Yep, from tragedy, even like COVID, right? We have plenty to be saddened by and challenged by with COVID, and certainly 9/11. And there's some silver lining.
Yeah, perhaps our business is one of them. So
yes. So let's talk about that. What is, you're like, let's
Good
get on with
segue,
it,
right?
Karen. Yeah, Karen, I know we have an hour, but I got a lot of things I got to say.
Right.
So ListenUp app. Jump in, tell us about it, and then we'll see if we need to go deeper.
Sure.
It's a geospatial audio app. It's a storytelling app, and it tells people everything about where they are, about what's around them.
Mm-hmm.
It's storytelling.
Yeah.
We discovered we were traveling right before COVID happened in Italy. I give you a little bit of background of how we came up with this. We were traveling in Italy, and we did Florence and we did Rome, and I booked all the trips and I booked all the tours, and we were with our 2 teenage daughters who really don't accept jet lag very well. So they really, really like to sleep, both of them.
They're teenage girls.
They are teenage girls. So let's just say by the time we got to Venice, my husband was a little fed up with us missing tours that we booked in the morning. And he's like, forget it. No more tours. I'm going to go on my own. Fine. He left. I downloaded probably about 10 different apps when we were going. He had all those apps on his phone. He got there. I'm sure you want to tell a little bit more about the story, but he just looked at all these apps. He's like, something's wrong here.
None of them were quite what you wanted.
I mean, but, I'm a technologist, so it's obviously I'm critical with many of these things. And for the most part, it just seemed like somebody thought, hey, this needs to exist. Let's put it together, but not from a perspective of, hey, how do we make this really useful for the user? How do we make this simple? How do we make this user experience better? So we ended up downloading maybe 10 apps, and every one that we tried had a lot left to be desired. And we got home and said, well, maybe there's a better solution out there. Maybe we can build something.
We had to pay for every single app that we downloaded.
Yeah, that was the other part of it, was that, it's like after you download 10 apps and you've paid $5 to $10 per tour or guide or whatever it is, and you have no idea how good it is. You have no idea
until
whether
you've
or not.
paid and are disappointed.
And you're stuck in the middle of Venice trying to figure out what's the building on your right, what's the building on your left. Oh, you have to start your tour a mile further away.
Oh.
Yeah, so basically for me, the user experience was that I would download these apps. The audio apps either didn't have content where I wanted it, or they required me to do some extra legwork. And here I am, in a place that I'm not familiar. And the last thing I want to do is walk around looking down at my phone.
Right.
So I ended up actually going to Wikipedia and just, okay, what does Wikipedia say is around me? Or what does Wikipedia say about this building? And that was good enough, but it was really inconvenient to look down at not to mention probably dangerous to walk around a city you don't know, looking down at your phone. So I said, if it was just as simple as taking this data from Wikipedia, knowing the user's location, being able to take some of this content and synthesizing it from text into speech and delivering it via audio tools like AirPods, which we all have these days, maybe that's good enough. And that's where it started. And of course, I wasn't happy with that. I wasn't satisfied, but that's where it started.
That's an amazing story, from frustration in many different forms.
I mean, that's how products usually get developed. We got a problem. We got to figure out a better solution.
Yep. And clearly you've done that. So so you guys are here in the greater Phoenix area. You're in Scottsdale.
Mm-hmm. We moved here 7 years ago.
Oh, so fairly new. From Chicago?
He's originally from New York. I'm from Chicago. We met and I brought him out to Chicago, came out here for a quick vacation. It was a 5-day trip in April of 2015 and fell in love.
Yeah.
We fell in love with
It was
Arizona.
kind of by accident too. We were in Vail, we were skiing, and I was sick, so I couldn't do anything that whole week. And I said, can we just go somewhere warm instead?
I found a $60 flight from Denver to Phoenix. We're like, let's do it.
Who do we know in Phoenix? No one. Well, let's go.
Anyway, yeah.
And we were there for 5 days, fell in love with it, did everything from Pink Jeep Tour to hot air balloon even. I mean, we did it all with our girls and went back to Chicago end of April. It was snowing.
Yeah, of course.
And we just said, what are we doing?
Yeah.
Life is short. Let's try it. We came back and fell in love even more. And then August 1st, we were living here.
Talk to me about how welcoming has and I'm not, be candid, whatever the answer is. I think I know what's going to be. How welcoming has the startup and the tech and the business community been for you?
Within Arizona, I'm actually really surprised. I mean, we did come from Chicago, technical backgrounds, and New York. Arizona, everybody knows everybody.
Yep.
And everybody's been very, very welcoming.
Good.
Everybody's been passing along names. You should talk to this person. You should talk to that person. It's actually been kind of really,
We're a
really
little
nice.
less formal than Chicago and New York.
For sure.
Well, what's really nice about it is that everyone here, or at least a good portion of people here, are from somewhere else. So everyone knows what it's like to be new. Yep. Everyone knows what it's like to not have the network or connection. So a lot of people have been just very forthcoming with connections, and that's been great.
So good. And you've been at this app for how long? You said COVID.
It was right before COVID is when we were in Italy. Let's put it that way. That November.
Yeah.
November, right before
COVID. Wow. Then we all got slammed down.
2 weeks before Italy shut down, right where we were.
Right. So now we've done that little bird walk that I invited us to. Take us back to why Phoenix? Because you clearly have been many incredible places, lived in incredible places. Why Phoenix?
The sun?
No, but why Phoenix for the app, right? You don't have to tell me why you're here for life, but for the app, because really you could, I'm guessing you could do this and you're going to, I get that.
Of course.
But why would you start with Metro Phoenix?
Yeah, I mean, it's unlike any place else. I think that, we could have started in Rome, or we could have started in Paris, some very popular tourist destination. But the reality is that Phoenix has the diversity. So it has some of the historical background that people love in Rome, but it also has some of the scenic flora, fauna, various different types of cacti and other things that people don't see anywhere else. So not everybody tours or travels the same way. And what we loved about Phoenix was that it has the diversity. It has the technology angle. It's got the natural angle. It's got the historical angle. There's really a lot here. And quite frankly, it's home. I mean,
It's home.
Yeah.
We've been
It's home.
telling people for 7 years how amazing this place is.
And now it's time for that to honor that, huh?
Exactly.
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
so
Exactly.
glad.
Plus, there's a little event coming up in February that we were
you might have
kind of
heard of it.
Super Bowl.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we have the Super Bowl,
Yeah.
and of course the Open, and then my
Exactly.
daughter works for Red Bull, and they've got some big epic thing coming in around the same time, I think.
So we're gonna have how many people coming
Right.
to Arizona?
Who are curious about all the things you've just described. So brilliant
Correct.
timing. Who do you hope benefits from this? Travelers, of course, and let's back up again for our listeners. The app does what? I mean, we've story told, but like if you had to do your elevator thing,
Yeah.
what is that?
So the way I describe it is that it's kind of like the internet for your ears. Generally speaking, as you're walking around, the phone knows exactly where you are, right? And many apps will use that
Yeah.
functionality, but they won't necessarily deliver a lot of great information based on that. Usually it's, Facebook or Google wants to know where you are so they can deliver advertisements to you. We do the same. We want to deliver advertisements to people, but we want to make them hyper-local. So we want to make them very, very localized to where the person is and make sure that they're contextual to what the user's doing. So if they're touring around a historic place, maybe every couple hours, they'll get an advertisement for a local restaurant and hear the story about that restaurant. How would you describe it, Irina?
Everybody, I don't know how you travel, but I know we've done those museum tours with the headphones and you're inside and you're looking to the right and it knows exactly where you are. It's talking to you about the beautiful artwork that you're looking at. You look to the left, you go into a different room. It knows where you are. Imagine that experience. You're walking out of that museum with your ear pods and the story continues. It keeps narrating. It tells you about the building on your right. It tells you about the park on the corner. The beautiful statue on the left.
Yep.
It tells you these stories. It knows if you're walking, driving, biking. And then it will know that for small businesses, when we are going to have advertisements, you haven't eaten for 3 hours. You know what? There's an amazing mom and pop pizza place down the corner within 2 blocks of where you are. Here's their story. They came from Naples in 1925. They have their great-grandmother's secret sauce recipe. You get that. And you build more attachment to the places that you go. It's not just, hey, 2 slices for $5. You actually get to know these places. Everybody's got a story.
Fascinating. And having been an early elementary educator years ago, it didn't dawn on me until just now, because you were talking about the internet for your ears. Not everybody, one, it's not safe to be reading and walking all the time, or reading and driving for that matter. I am an Audible learner. I listen to books on Audible because I just can picture it, see it, all that so much better. So that is great because most of us are not necessarily readers.
Right. And when you're there, it's actually a lot more contextual, so you remember it better.
Yep.
Right. You can read a story about a building and its history, and it's kind of like in one ear, out the other. When you're actually there, you build a connection to that building.
Relationship.
And that's really what retains, in your mind. So, that contextual element is very important. But yeah, you bring up a very important point in that people learn differently. One of the things that really drives us with this is that there are opportunities for education where you can really teach people. I mean, maybe it's architecture, maybe it's real estate, maybe it's something else, but ultimately there are different ways to learn. And this is one that just hasn't been explored very much.
All in English? Do we cover that? Is it going to be different languages? How does that work?
No, we didn't cover that. So we say 22 languages is what we currently translate everything to. So because we're using artificial intelligence quite a bit, we use the artificial intelligence to gather the content, so gather stories. We use artificial intelligence to mold the stories into something that's cohesive and entertaining. And we use it to translate any of the stories into 22 languages. And then we use it to synthesize those stories into speech. So we have a number of different voices that we can utilize, but it's, everyone's used to the Alexas and the Siris and those sorts of voices. They're getting better every day.
I'm blown away. Fascinating. Is it okay if I ask about the revenue? Is it a free, will it be a free app? It is a free app. You're nodding your heads, yes.
It's a freemium model, basically.
Yes, love it. Okay, perfect. Freemium, which means it's free for a number of days or certain.
No, it's free forever, but
if you want additional things.
Yeah, I mean, basically the way we have it set up right now is that because we're trying to drive ad revenue, the primary driver of revenue is advertising. So it's not something we want to charge people for. However, advertising can come in multiple forms. So from our perspective, there's programmatic advertising, which is the stuff that you hear on typical radio shows or Spotify or Pandora. And then you have native ads, which are ads that are driven from our system. So the native ads are actually local businesses. They're folks who are contributing stories and really part of the ecosystem. And I think those will be part of the advertising regardless. But the programmatic ads are ads that probably are less contextual, and we'd like to phase them out. And perhaps we can do that by charging a premium for a subscription service. Our goal is really, though, to keep it as free as possible for as long as possible.
Small businesses for us is really important.
I was just going to ask.
Mom and pop shops. I mean, they're getting lost with all the large companies, and this country was built on these small businesses and the mom and pop shops. And we've had a mom and pop. We owned a cafe in downtown Chicago for 5 years. We get it. We were competing with Starbucks and Caribou at that time. We get that part. So targeted ads where you're literally 2 blocks and this person is paying just for somebody that they know is right there. It really is going to hit home with people.
And so many different aspects of technology go into the creation of this, right? So the end user, it's going to just pop into our ears. We're going to have this incredible contextual experience and have no idea how many pieces of the puzzle come in here, right? Fantastic. Let's talk a little bit more about small businesses. And how does a company reach out and say, I want to be a part of this? How can we help you? And what are you doing to get people rallied behind this?
Well, joinlistenup.com is the website that we've set up currently for anyone who wants to contribute. So we've got a tool that is called Discord. If people are familiar with it, it's basically just a chatting type app. Most kids use it these days for playing games. So some parents might be familiar if they have kids.
All the techies are on it.
All the techies are on it. But essentially, what we're trying to do is build up an ecosystem where local businesses can advertise for very inexpensive and really plug into the system and become part of the ecosystem. We owned a coffee shop when we lived in Chicago. It was kind of a third business for us. So it wasn't my primary business. It wasn't her primary business. She was a realtor at the time and a really good one at that. And we basically decided we wanted to own a coffee shop, but what we realized was that it was impossible to compete in advertisement. So because this whole ecosystem of small businesses in Phoenix and the whole Arizona area, I think, as well as other places, we really wanted to plug them into this system and give them the opportunity to get traction with people who are right there, who are right in front of their establishment or within walking distance. So the best way right now to get involved is to go to that website, joinlistenup.com. We also bought a domain, which we'll be setting up soon. It's youradhere.com. Here, spelled H-E-A-R, so play on words there.
Yeah.
Your ad here, which we plan to automate the system completely so that people can come to the website, instantly tell us where their business is, be able to quickly put together a programmatic ad without having any kind of ad agency or background in advertising, and basically just give us their story, tell us what their promotion is, and get plugged right into the system.
Incredible. Well, you came to the right place today because we're all about a small business and storytelling. Are you members of Local First Arizona yet?
I don't think we are yet.
So
No.
that's going to be a necessary, I believe, a necessary opportunity. And Daryl and I can make that connection with you. Thomas Barr and
Thank you.
Kimber Lanning run Arizona Local First, or Arizona Local First Arizona.
Mhm.
It is the largest small business coalition in the country, and phenomenal people. I think you'll enjoy getting to know them. And so, right, we're primarily B2B. They are B2B, but also B2C. And I think we're really
Mhm.
talking a little bit around the consumer piece
Sure.
of it when it comes to some of these opportunities for people to share their stories.
Well, thank
Do
you.
they have an office on Roosevelt Road?
Yes.
Okay, so I just walked by there the other day.
Good. Well,
and I
next
noticed
time,
that, so
walk in and walk by.
I will. It was nighttime.
Okay, lots of questions coming in such a formal piece of paper too.
Yeah.
From our
This is-
producer. You're from where, Daryl? Put your microphone on. Which I've never done before, so this is the first for
Oh.
people. So when is it going to be available on Android? I can read that one.
Yeah. We don't know yet. So right now we are bootstrapped. We are basically paying for all of the development and all of our time completely out of our pockets.
Yeah.
We do plan to open a pre-seed round, friends and family round or something of that to that regard pretty
I want to
soon.
be in there. I want to
Yeah.
be in there.
But, ultimately, we see ourselves as a very community-driven type of organization.
Yes.
And so what that means is we really have to be cognizant about how much equity we give up to investors.
course.
We want to retain the equity for the community for the long term. So we have to be cautious about taking money. But ultimately, the plan is that once we launch our Apple app, we would launch our Android app shortly thereafter. And the
Okay.
Apple app is supposed to launch around New Year's.
Okay, good. And I'm just now catching on.
Mhm.
These are questions from LinkedIn, not from Daryl. So
Oh.
thank you. Thank you, LinkedIn. Usually I have a laptop open and I can actually see the comments, but I've been flying with other clients today in my other business. So my apologies.
I was going to say, Daryl already knows all of this. Why is he asking?
Right. So Daryl, thank you. Now, where are you from? From Russia?
Minsk, Belarus.
Belarus. And you are from?
Odessa, Ukraine.
Okay. Somebody listening is from
Mogilev.
Mogilev. Where's that in relationship with?
Couldn't tell you.
Okay.
Neither can
Couldn't
I.
tell you.
Maybe they can. If you're still listening, we'd love to know where that is. And yes, I think this question's from Daryl. Should you know Arizona Technology Council? And I know you and I spoke about it when you first came out and kind of pitched the idea that we'd have a chance to share your story. I went right to AZ Tech Council. Steve Zalson and I co-host his show
Just spoke
together.
to him this morning.
just had a call with them
I'm
this
so
morning.
glad. Did you tell me you'd be on with me today?
Did
No,
you?
I didn't actually. He was very busy.
Interview over? Yes,
Yeah.
he is a very busy man. Okay, so never mind.
We met him last week at one of the
I'm
conferences.
so glad.
Mhm.
So I was thinking that made sense for you guys. And
For
Bianca,
sure.
who coordinates the show for us, came back and said, we are already booked. I think I shared that with you through January, February. So we would have missed the window. So here you are. And Daryl is right that we want to make sure that you stay connected. And we'll get you introduced to Bianca as well as now that you know Steve.
Well, thank you.
Conscious Capitalism is going to be another great organization for you
Mhm.
as you continue to get to know, obviously our local business owners. I know you've been here for a while and you've been around the block. We kind of see business relationships through a little bit of a different lens in Business Radio X here. We're all about relationships and less about the tech, even though it appears that we know what we're doing. Clearly.
Yeah.
High tech right
high tech.
here with
High
the rubber thing flying.
Ran
final
out of the
page.
paper
right,
even.
right, we did. Hey, but
You
thank
definitely
goodness
get your money's worth here. I noticed that.
That's right. My point being, are you aligned with the Chamber of Commerce's? And okay, good. You're nodding your heads.
So
Yes.
yes and no. I mean, we
Mhm.
want to be. We definitely want to be. We are only two people. We do have
Yeah.
a couple of contributors who are very passionate about this project and want to help out as well.
So good.
But the reality is that it's difficult. There are so many chambers of commerce. Every municipality here, every city, and there are a lot of cities: Scottsdale, Glendale, Gilbert, Mesa,
Yeah.
Flagstaff,
Flagstaff,
Sedona.
Tempe. I mean,
We've been
all of
talking
these
to-
are. So we try as much as we can to reach out to them and
Yeah.
create relationships. It would be so much easier if they just reached out to us and said, "Hey, give us the flyer. We'll send it out to all of our
How
businesses."
can we cooperate with you?
Yeah. I have an idea for how to. Daryl.
We're all
And here-
ears.
oh, thank you. Yes, I do. We'll talk about that
We're
offline.
upgrading the
Oh,
technology.
yeah, there we are. Okay, so let's see. Belarus. What is exciting on dev roadmap for ListenUp in a few years?
Oh, wow.
Thank you, Jonathan.
That's a great question,
It's an excellent. Jonathan, come take my seat. I'm going to step aside.
Right now, we're building what we call geospatial audio or augmented audio reality. So
Explain that.
yeah, so that means that basically your ears, as you use devices that are like, let's say, Apple AirPods. The AirPods went from 2016, they were announced, I think, in December. 2017, they were already something like a $4 billion business. So they went to massive scale in a very short period of time.
Okay.
One of the reasons why those devices have been growing, obviously aside from their convenience, is that they incorporate some advanced technology like head tracking. So you can turn your head and
You modeled that earlier,
Yep, and the audio moves around. There's also geospatial audio, which is basically, or let's just call it spatial audio, which means you can determine what direction something comes from or how far in distance it is from you. So using these technologies, we're incorporating this into ListenUp right now. But one of our plans for the coming years, let's say 3 to 5 years, is that we see the augmented reality glasses or perhaps even contact lenses becoming the pervasive device. So these are the devices that are essentially going to allow you to visualize things that are augmented in addition to the audio that we're providing. We do see the audio as kind of the baseline, the primary layer, and there certainly isn't going to be, like, not everything will have augmented reality vision, but some stories can be enhanced. So for example, if you're walking around the Colosseum in Rome, right now you'd be able to hear stories about it, but maybe in 3 to 5 years, you'd be able to see it being built in its original form. Right. Same thing with maybe the World Trade Center or some other.
While listening to ListenUp's audio.
Right. Wow.
Yeah.
The stories that we've.
So, yeah, one of our primary advisors on this project is a guy named Louis Rosenberg. I suggest everyone look him up. But Louis essentially invented the category of augmented reality. So it's one of those areas that when we're passionate about something, we seek out the utmost experts and we kind of annoy them until they help us.
So good. I love that. That's how you get it done. I'm fascinated. After I got back on track with our wonderful comments and questions, and keep them coming now that I know what I'm doing. Oh, by the way, Igor, P is his name, from Belarus, next to Minsk.
Okay.
Is where he's from. And I'm curious, are you, let us know if you're still there. I mean, if you're listening, and are you here in the States? Where are you now? And thank you both, Jonathan and Igor, for questions. Offices of Tourism, I'd imagine you're having conversations with them. Came after Chamber. It should have gone the other way around.
We've reached out to Experience Scottsdale, Visit Phoenix. Everybody has been extremely welcoming to talk to us. Definitely have to explain our idea and spend some time talking to us to really understand that we're different than anything that they have ever encountered before.
I can see that. And as you had said earlier, this is really just the beginning, right? Not only just the Arizona that you're going to focus on first to get it launched, all the different areas that you can do this for, in addition to all the different applications and opportunities. I even was thinking, and I'm sure it's not a new thought, you guys have thought about it, but if somebody wants to get on there and they specifically love our golf courses, there can be a whole thing on golf courses and resorts and schools, and I mean, you name it, it's just endless.
For example, real estate. I mean, I was a broker for many years.
You had mentioned too. You gave her a shout out around how good she was, and I read that in your bio too. Very successful.
I was with App Properties. Now they're App Properties, Christy Sotheby's in Chicago.
Okay.
I was definitely one of the first 100 people, but I did stop working with them for a while and decided to be a stay-at-home mom for several years. Imagine going around the neighborhoods. Like, we live in Scottsdale, and a lot of these areas are residential, and you don't have retail spaces to advertise, but you could connect to the MLS. You have got people driving around here, find out about the architects that are building this, find out about the schools, about the neighborhoods, what is close by, all while you're driving safely listening to this, as long as you've got Bluetooth on.
Endless.
So that's just one of those
possibilities. Yeah. Tell me about your other projects, either that you've done together, the cafe, but other technology. Have you ever been as excited about something as you are about this?
I don't think so, because this is the first time where we've been working forever together, and there was a point where he just said, you know what, we got to change the world. I think we're in a different stage of our lives. I think COVID brought that to us to realize, we can't just be working and obviously collecting checks. He loved what he did. He's still doing it. His primary business.
Yeah, so I can shed a little light there. So about 16 or 17 years ago, and this is actually, it's interesting because a lot of the things that happen to us in life are catalysts of each other's involvement. So I had always been a technology guy. I had always been, doing lots of development and since a very early age doing programming. But when I moved out to Chicago, Irina really, it was for her that I moved out. I
doesn't admit that.
Rarely
usually.
admit
He just
that.
wanted to move
I
to
rarely
the city.
admit
Now
is what
we
he
have
says.
it live on video,
Yes,
recorded.
now it's recorded.
I've got proof.
But when I moved out there, I really didn't know what to expect. And I did a number of different sort of odd consulting gigs, working for Boeing and working for different startups. And I essentially started a web development company that I would do sort of freelance web development on. And Irina came to me one day and she said, I have this friend who's she's a colleague and she's got a real problem with her website. She works for a law firm and her name was Lily Joy. Do you remember Lily?
Of course I remember
And
her.
and the firm is Chuak and Texan in Chicago. And what happened was that she was just really in a bad spot because she had hired an agency that just did a terrible job. And so I came in and I just saved the day. Irina was like, yeah, I think I was fiance at that point. My fiance is a web developer. He can help you out. And so from there, Lily was over the moon. She introduced us to a variety of other law firms. And basically I built a law firm marketing and software as a service platform.
16 years. He's really humble. 16 years. He never did sales ever. It was all referrals and word of mouth.
So hundreds of law firms, mid-sized firms all over the country, right? And it's good work, but the reality is it does absolutely nothing to make the world better. And that started to get to me when COVID hit. And I think we said, well, you know what? If we can do this, if we know that this is possible, how could we not?
You both had alluded to this earlier, that COVID really had many of us making those decisions. What's my legacy? How can I give back? What's my purpose, right? Daryl and I, with the Conscious Capitalism community of Arizona and Grand Canyon University, just came together for a documentary all around sustainability. It was last week, I think, on Monday. And the documentary, if you haven't seen it yet, for you guys and our listeners, it's called Beyond Zero. And it is a carpet company that really, the founder at one point went, what am I doing? I'm making a mess of the earth. And I can't remember, the story tells how and when he had that epiphany. And they had a 20-year goal to not only become, zero waste, zero emissions, carbon neutral. They also, I think, like the last 3 years of at least, when they were following the story, wanted to reverse global warming. What can I do? And I talk to entrepreneurs and business owners all the time who have said the same thing through COVID. I got to sit back, I got to look at my wife and my kids and my business and go, maybe there's more to what I have to offer this world. So congratulations on making that commitment. And this is life-changing. It's incredible.
It is. It's another thing that we thought ListenUp truly would help. The refugees coming to all these countries and trying to assimilate quickly. I mean, we're speaking from personal experience. Our families came here. They didn't have the language. And all of a sudden, you're walking around trying to figure everything out. Imagine if it's being told in your language, things around you. Because everybody comes here and they do get a cell phone. Where everybody's got a cell phone and earpods now, and this is the way they can learn about their surroundings in their language.
And what a great example. Most entrepreneurs take these life experiences, and you mentioned the relationship, and that's or solving a problem, and then that becomes their business. Throughout this tapestry, you have you're coming to the States the way you did as refugees. You have the real estate component. You have the tech. It's fascinating.
Small business.
It's just, it's kind of a duh. I mean, as a listener, I'm like, well, of course, but you didn't land on the map with this idea. It took you years to get here.
Well, you asked earlier when we started, and you kind of, I guess, brought it back to when we went to Italy just before the pandemic and all that. But, when I think about it, this is our life's work. This is 100%. A culmination of everything that we've done up until this day. So, yeah, and that's how I think everyone operates, is that, they act every day based on their prior experience, until that day. So if we can look forward and say, let's try and make tomorrow better than today is, or provide better for humanity, then that's what we're going to do.
That's right.
I think you're speaking like a father right now.
And I was thinking about your girls.
2 daughters, and
I was just thinking the same thing. So tell me what they're teenagers.
They are. We've got one that's 16 and one that is almost 14.
Do they understand? My kiddo's 15, so right in between. My youngest, I got 2 in their late 20s. What do they think about this? Do they understand? Are either of them techie?
They think we're crazy.
Good.
No,
mine too.
We're always we've always been entrepreneurial. We believe in that. Our oldest was helping us with proofreading some of the things that we were writing. She's amazing in like AP English right now.
Good.
So it's starting to be a family. They're getting involved. My younger one, very huge fan of TikTok. She's starting to come up with, okay, marketing. This is what we're going to do.
This is how we do it.
Like, okay, let's do this. So they've, it's definitely life's work here.
When I used to be an assistant principal and a 3rd grade teacher, probably very obvious, but there you go. And I remember when I started in my own business and was kind of flailing along, right, trying to find the right thing to do. I remember my daughter came into the home office, and at the time, I think she must have been 11. She's like, how come you can't just have a normal job like everybody else? Because we were scrapping at that point financially, right? Can't do this, can't do that, and I've got to work late and all that. And I looked at her and I said, I really wish I could. Mm-hmm. I don't know how to work for somebody else anymore. Exactly. And I'm going to stay with this until I can find my stride. And obviously, for 5 years, Business RadioX has been my life's work. And it helps me with the trauma work that I do with C-level executives as well. It all just kind of came to like, oh, wow, this makes sense. So Jonathan Chambliss has another question for us. Hope he's still with us. Any major events in Phoenix that are coming up that can help launch the app adoption nationally? So I think that maybe that's a shout out to our listeners, and maybe, asking you guys too, how can we help you? Let's go back to that question.
Yeah.
What events, what businesses, what professional organizations can we make sure that you guys get in front of so that we can take this nationally? Look at me, I'm already taking ownership.
Right. Of course. Well, it is a community business. So ultimately, I'd say let's throw that back to the listenership and say, hey, what are you doing that's noteworthy, that you want people to have a better experience with, that you want people aware of? One of the things that we aim to do is really help municipalities get the word out about what they're doing. There are so many events that are put on by Scottsdale or Phoenix or any other town here, and people just don't know about it because they don't know where to look. They don't know where to look for it. So maybe if we can empower these things with ListenUp, make them ListenUp enabled, and we can help these people promote some of these events, it would be great. I'd say reach out to us. We're very accessible.
And that word of mouth, if we go back to that, when one city starts to have traction and can celebrate the success, not just within Arizona, of course, but all over the country, people are going to be like, we want that. How did you get them on your team?
Right.
Exactly.
Yeah, of course.
Definitely a very, I can use it as addicting app. We've been using our as a beta. We have been using it when we travel.
Yeah.
And we did travel this summer, but we went to the East Coast, and we did not populate it with content for that particular area. And I'm walking around asking, what's that building? What's that building?
Disappointed, yeah.
Like, I need ListenUp. I can't. Once you try it, you can't not, because you just want to learn about things around you.
Yeah. What else have I not thought to ask? And for our listeners, if you're still with us, would love to know if you have any lingering questions as well as we wind down.
Yeah, I wanted to circle back to something you were saying before about when you were a teacher and us being parents. And I think that angle really plays into this a lot as well, because, Irina, after being a realtor, she decided to become a stay-at-home mom. We had the 3 businesses.
Extremely challenging. I've been working since I was 12. I mean, coming from an immigrant family.
Yeah.
You work, you babysit. My first job, I was 13 scooping ice cream at Haagen-Dazs.
Yeah.
it was
So
quite.
sorry, side note, mom to mom. I'm like,
No,
I remember that.
that's the point.
I was
mean,
never around, and that's when I'm like, wait, I only have 10 years to do this job, right? Which is raising the kids.
Yeah.
Now they're older, and I'm ready.
So now,
so
to bring
now,
your point home.
yeah, to bring the point home is that whole, that's a perspective that very few people have, or certainly men tend to not have that experience of, rearing children. I think it's really important in the grand scheme of, just giving people perspective. So our whole goal, I think this whole world would be a much nicer place, and we'd be nicer to each other if we had the perspective. We talk a lot about what's going on in different parts of the world, and there's war in the Ukraine, and, there's refugees everywhere. And sure, there are a lot of things going on, but how often do we actually have the appropriate perspective on what those people deal with? Today, we're mourning the Queen, right, in England, and people have gone there to pay their respects, but most Americans have no concept for what it's like to live in a monarchy.
No.
And how does that change your perspective on life? And so ultimately that's what we're trying to do is bring the perspective. So when I talk about Irina being a mom, and she's been an amazing mom, I think any of our kids or kids' friends would attest to that, because she's the one that hangs out with them the most. But just bringing that perspective, bringing an angle that you might not otherwise have considered, or a background that you might not have experienced.
Community is really important. So when I did move here 7 years ago, I started a Facebook group, and I had a couple hundred people. And then I found somebody else, a friend, Alba, and she had a couple hundred in her Facebook group. She moved from Minnesota. I'm like, why don't we combine efforts? So now we've got about 6,000 moms, Scottsdale only.
Wow.
We've got people listening. We're communicating doctor's appointments,
Yes.
schools, information, all of that stuff. So community is really, really important to me. I mean, when COVID hit, we were collecting food for some parents and kids, and it's an amazing, amazing group of women. So I just wanted to shout out to Scottsdale
Yay.
Mamas.
Yes, love
On
it.
Facebook.
On Facebook. And it is Scottsdale Mamas?
It is Scottsdale Mamas.
Yeah, and you vet them. I mean, they need to be living or working in
We
Scottsdale.
vet them.
Okay,
Nope,
good.
just living.
Living. Okay.
And not
very
a
good.
second home, and not
Yeah.
just coming and going. We're not just there for information.
Right. There's
If you're
other
coming
groups
to
for
visit.
that.
Exactly. And exactly.
Yeah.
There's probably a Scottsdale Snowbirds group
For
somewhere.
sure. Probably several of them.
Yeah. But it's just a really nice community to be able to really
Yeah.
bounce ideas off of each other.
So many things we could talk for hours. Community is everything. And as you were sharing, I was thinking, of course, around the saying that you've never really lived until you've traveled, right? How could you have any idea what the rest of the world is like if you haven't taken time to step outside of your backyard?
For sure.
And this app gives you the opportunity to have that community experience through ListenUp.
Yeah. Well, our hope is that people will start to travel and travel more, because travel is expensive. I mean, you can't get around the fact that it costs, perhaps $1,000 or something like that to go to Europe, and then you have to get hotels and things like that. I mean,
and then these tours are expensive.
and the tours are expensive, right?
Not everybody can pay for all
yeah,
of that.
Right.
Yeah, we're traveling soon, and it looks like $600 per person for a 3-hour
trip,
tour,
yeah.
for like a day trip.
Yeah.
And that's really expensive. So we're hoping that we can at least bring the accessibility of travel to some people, more people. If they can afford the personal tour, great. If they can't, they have ListenUp.
Yeah. Excellent. We're going to wind it down.
Sounds good.
I have a couple more personal growth, professional growth questions before we do. Who in your life, both of you or individually, was an inspiration for you? You both clearly have an entrepreneur spirit. Was there somebody that you witnessed, or that you know, or that you read about?
I think when we first met,
Yeah.
he sat me in the car when we were just getting engaged. And I'm going to bring that up. But the book, Rich Dad, Poor Dad.
Yes, we've had Sharon Lecter on a couple of times before. Yeah.
Yeah. The reality is, actually, she made me read Rich Dad, Poor Dad on our honeymoon. Prior to that, it was...
I love it.
I had been listening to all kinds of Napoleon Hill and all various different types of business related things. And I forget who it was actually, but I played her this talk given by one of those authors, and he said something like, the key to success in life and marriage is in business is having a supportive wife. And I looked at her and I said,
Supportive partner.
will you be the supportive wife? Will you be the supportive partner? And she said, I will support you in anything you do, regardless of whether or not it means we have to mortgage our house, regardless of whether or not we have to cut back on any kind of luxuries that we may acquire. I will be there. And that really set the tone for our marriage because, as an entrepreneur, you do take very big risks, and sometimes
a lot of ups and downs.
Yeah, sometimes there are ups and downs, but ultimately, for us, I don't think they recognize it, but our parents took a very big risk leaving the Soviet Union.
No language, no job, completely no home yet when they were.
And despite the fact that growing up, they always told us, well, you need to get a job. You need to have a career. You need to, you shouldn't just go and try and own a business or, my mom worked for Merrill Lynch for 25 years. She came to the United States, and her dad as well, who had no, didn't have the language. They became computer programmers, mainframe programmers, right? So this is what they did for 2 decades. And they felt like this is the American dream, get a secure job and get the health
But we
benefits.
realize nothing is secure.
Right.
They're working for somebody else.
Yeah, that was the model, right?
It was.
My
It
dad
was. And we decided
same.
to break the mold and say we're doing it on our own.
So I say that they're our inspiration, even though they don't realize that it was a different type of risk that they took. It wasn't a business venture, but it was, it was a venture nonetheless. And so for us, that's super inspirational, and I'd say they played a big role in molding us.
I love how many times we hear that parents are those examples of life and partnership in business, and many times, and I'm thinking of Austin and Landon specifically, and actually Robert and JJ, hosts of their own shows here at the studio, who often talk about and give acknowledgement to their wives. I'm sitting on the opposite side of that. I've had 2 marriages. We've all been in businesses. And to grow and run alongside somebody who really is willing to say, we're in this forever, and I've got you and you've got me. I sadly, I wasn't fortunate enough to have that. And so kudos to you, because it makes all the difference in the world when you have somebody who can say, either I get it and I want to do it with you, or I don't understand it and I support you.
Right.
It doesn't matter as long as you've got that. So,
well, not all of our businesses have been together, and I would say that the last one, which was really a together business, was the coffee shop in Chicago, and that was kind of a disaster, I'd say, right?
Yeah.
Went down.
We did
in
have it for
flames.
5 years, but
7 years.
Oh,
Yeah.
let's just say I checked out at 5.
Right.
Yeah.
And yes, and it was right before you moved out here.
Not right before, but it was several years prior to that. Yeah. And it was, Irina's a foodie. She loves food. She loves cooking. She's actually, I would classify her as a gourmet chef. I think any of our friends would as well. But we figured, hey, food service business, that's something we've got to have experience with at some point.
Yeah.
Retail, something we have to have experience with at some point. And I'll tell you, we got a really good education, although it was very expensive.
I bet. Yes.
It was definitely a great experience understanding that side of the business, because that's it's a lot of work to be
Of course
doing
it is.
brick and mortar
Restaurants.
restaurants.
Really tough. Yeah.
Yeah.
Fascinating. All right. Tell us again where we can plug in and get involved. And then I see that you guys are on Twitter, as well as join listenup.com and LinkedIn with ListenUp as well.
For sure.
Just look up ListenUp.
Yeah, LinkedIn. We're ListenUp DAO on LinkedIn. And join listenup.com. Our Discord is where our community communicates. So I think we've got about 150 members right now. We welcome everyone in the Arizona, Phoenix, Scottsdale, Flagstaff, all the way down to Tempe and Tucson area to
Contact us.
Contact us. Get in touch. We'd love to
We're
help
easily
businesses.
accessible.
Very good. So exciting. I'm so pleased that you reached out.
Thank you for having us.
That it made sense to have me do the interview as well. I remember that conversation as well. So sorry, Steve and Arizona Technology Council. Actually, I'm quite confident that there'll be an opportunity to come back and circle back with them at some point.
There will.
For sure. You've been listening to Phoenix Business Radio, broadcasting live from the Max 6 Entrepreneurial Center right here in Tempe, Arizona. Some media leans left, some lean right, and we lean business. Until next time, I'm Karen Nowicki. Thanks for listening.